All right, so we're sitting here with Mandy Massey, the remote property guru of Southeast Alaska. We're going to talk to her about some of the things that you should look for and things that you haven't thought about when you're thinking about buying remote property. Hi, Mandy.
Hi, Brian.
We're also fishing at Tracy Arms today, so we're trying to slay the halibut. What's a good way to find property? Should you go to a realtor? Should you hit Zulu or Zillow or whatever it's called? Just do research online, or is it best just to get with the realtor and have them?
Well, there's a lot of ways to find property now. Craigslist, Zillow, realtor.com. It's out there for people to find when there's a dozen websites. But if you really want to know what's coming, maybe something before it's even listed, because you're going to find the best deals that way, like before it hits the market. Especially in Southeast Alaska, the remote property, a lot of it's mouth to mouth, just word of mouth and neighbors talking. Right? I think if we talked amongst ourselves, we could tell each other a couple places that would be up for sale that no one can find on the market, not any website right now. So get with a realtor who knows the area, and yeah, get the local lowdown.
The local lowdown. The other question is how do I finance a remote cabin or raw land? Well, hello.
It's tricky because not every mortgage loan is created equally. So if it's raw land, if it's remote property, if it's a single family home, it's all going to be different. Here in Alaska we have as little as $0 down if you want to just single family home in town. But if you're looking for remote recreational property, there's going to be a few banks that are going to be able to help you out. And if they do, it's going to be a significant down payment. So oftentimes what happens are the owner of these properties end up doing some sort of owner financing agreement where you have a big chunk of money down and they'll let you pay them off over the next 5 to 7 years. So it's always a good option if banks aren't giving you the rates that you're hoping for, because you're not going to get, say, interest rates for a single family home right now are 3%. You're looking more like 7 or 8%. If you do find a lending institution.
That's true. We went with a couple of banks to try to finance our place, and eventually we paid half down, and then we just financed the other half through the seller. He just did owner financing, and we paid that off within a year. But they'll give you more time. But I just knew that we could do it within a year. So, but we told them 3 to give us a little leeway. They were fine with that. But you could go. They'll just work with the seller, and you can go up to 7 years or however long.
Yeah, however long they're willing to carry it, and usually for a pretty decent rate. I would say 5 or 6 at this point in time, but it's totally up to that person and what their financial needs are. A lot of times they'll even amortize it over, say, 15, 20, 30 years, so it's a small payment, but then at the end of that term, say it's 7 years, you'll have that big balloon payment. So at least it can buy you some time to secure other financing and get started, owning the property, working with the property before you pay them off in full.
So, I thought that poll got a strike on it. Ask your question. What's your question?
My question was, if you do owner financing and you put down half the payment, let's say you put down $50,000, and then you are able to pay a significant amount for 2 years, and then what happens if you default on the payment? Does the property go back to the owner and they get all that money that you put down?
So to answer Diana's question, I would say that yes, generally the owner is going to take back the property and keep everything that you put into it over those months or years. I've seen that happen for the sale of commercial property. I've seen that happen for the sale of liquor licenses. So it's all spelled out in fine print in the purchase agreement. So you always want to go back to your contract. But generally speaking, if you default, you're SOL. So pay your bill.
SOL, what's that stand for?
Should have got a lot.
Leave it to Lulu.
So once you buy remote property, is it all a free-for-all, willy-nilly? You just get to do what you want? Or are there regulations that you still have to abide by?
There is, I would say, a bit more freedom, right? Because you don't usually have the municipality right there, but generally speaking, you still have covenants that are recorded with the title company, with the state. So the title company can give you that information. For example, when we signed our island property, we were giving covenants of what we could and couldn't do. For example, we can't have an outhouse island. So we knew about that in advance.
All right, so the other aspect here in Southeast Alaska is most of these remote properties are going to be on an island. And the big issue is, I don't live in Southeast Alaska. I want to, but how do I get to this property to take a look at it? We're going to hand that over to Captain Funk.
There's 2 realtors in town that have a boat, landing craft such as this. So when you make your way into Juneau, or you want to go see that property, we're going to do our due diligence, talk to the property owners, let them know when we're coming, cart you out to the island, walk you around, give you a safe trip out there, talk about the land, talk about the water. There's a lot more than just the remote property. It's the wilderness. It's passing the whales on the way to your sweet spot, your forever cabin. What's the word I'm looking for?
Dream cabin.
Your dream cabin. Thank you. It's more than just a cabin. It's the sunsets. It's the sitting on the beach with a bonfire.
Pina colada.
Pina coladas. It's the 4th of July, watching kids swim on the hot 80-degree weather in Juneau. There's a lot more. But yes, transportation, it can be a little sticky sometimes. But if the weather blows up, you want to make sure you're with someone that's got a good-sized boat to get you through that stuff. And local knowledge. There's a lot of rocks out there, the tides, the wind, the current. You want to be with someone that knows what they're doing.
Because a lot of people who reach out to us about wanting remote property in Southeast Alaska hope and think that it's on our road system, and that's a really big challenge because there's very little property on our road system, especially remote or cabin property.
Here in
Southeast
Southeast,
Alaska.
yeah.
So specifically, we're landlocked, so even though we have land on one side, there's not roads to get to that property. So I really think that a common myth is that you can get to it with an RV or a trailer. Just get me a piece of land, let me park my fifth wheel on it, and that just doesn't. It's not available very often here. So it is talking to somebody like Captain Funk who has a landing craft to get you out to where you want to go. And the other thing is they can tell you about what kind of boat you need, what kind of vessel can get you there, what side of the island is going to be safer for your moorage and storage of your boat. So definitely hook up with someone like Captain Funk when you're going off-grid.
Local knowledge. You need local knowledge in the Alaskan waters.
Captain Steve's full of it. I mean, of the local knowledge. So when you're buying remote property, what should you look for?
So what should you look for buying remote property? First of all, proximity to where you need to be, whether that's work or healthcare or the major airport nearest you. I think that's key. Your weather, your climate's important because that's going to make a huge difference in what kind of structure you need, access to fresh water. Boy, there's so many things to consider, including moorage of your boat. You guys know it best where you'll be on the side of an island that is just not safe or sound for your vessel. And so having access to some big equipment that's going to make you live more comfortably and safer. Not only a boat, but a trailer, four-wheeler, the list goes on and on. So getting with somebody like you guys, really.
Not us. So, would you recommend people buying property sight unseen?
It can happen in this day of technology, absolutely, because we can literally FaceTime you if you have cell service or data service. I do a lot of video work for my clients, and we can march through the property, give you a really good idea for it. I mean, there's nothing like being here in person, but I mean, getting an aerial view, you have perhaps some sort of a plat map that you might be able to see. And what else, Steve?
Google Earth is a great tool to utilize. You can get the aerial view on what it is. If you've got friends, family, or even your agent, your realtor, ask them to go put boots on the ground. Walk through the woods a little bit. Are you buying a gorgeous swampy 2 acres that you really can't do much with, or are you buying 2 acres that has a little bit of swamp on it and you've got 1.5 acres of just pristine land that's great to live on? So can you buy remote property unsight unseen? Absolutely. Make sure you got a good realtor that knows the area, tips you off a little bit, gives you things to watch out for. But if you can get somebody on the ground to walk around a little bit for you, take some photos, say, hey, the land is buildable. It's not a muggy, swampy bog. So,
By law, if you ask the realtor, hey, is there any swamp on the property? Do they have to tell you by law, or is that just a moral code?
There's definitely a code of ethics, and we're required to disclose anything we know about the property. However,
Legally, you're required to.
Correct. But the problem is we may not know. We may not be able to access every inch of it. And I'm not really likely going to tell you if you can build and what you can build. That's more up to an engineer or a contractor. So, there's other professionals involved when you want to develop a property, including clearing the lot, getting heavy equipment out, or if you're going to just be doing it yourself.
So what about
Fishing
pricing?
pole's
Oh,
right.
we got a fish pole. Okay, hold on. Let's go. Fish on. You're going to get us a halibut here. So that's one of the questions I get a lot is, how much did your property cost? And to be honest, that's the wrong question to ask, because what my property cost and what the property right next door to me cost could be night and day. So we're going to talk about property cost, and yeah, let's just hand it over to Mandy. She's the guru.
The cost is all over the board, and things that factor into that would be, of course, location.
Costco.
Costco. How close to Costco are you? Right?
Yeah.
Being key. No, are you beachfront? Are you a little bit more interior? Of course, the acreage or square footage would weigh in, but it's also the type of the quality of the acreage, like we were talking about earlier with muskeg. What?
I'm sorry. He says he's got a fish.
Gonna get action. Can you see the glacier right behind him? That's really pretty.
Oh, you can't see the glacier. Go ahead.
Okay. So the quality of the acreage weighs in. The view, if you have
Glacier view.
glacier view, for example, or do you get the morning sun or the evening sunsets? All weighs in. And how much, excavation are you going to have to do just to even, start putting holes in the ground?
Sorry, I'm seeing that tip go like this. Roop, roop. Let me know when it's time, Steve. I'm sorry, continue.
That's fine.
Is there really something on there, Steve?
I think he's putting on a show.
It's a monster.
A monster.
get the pistol.
Shit.
There is something you can see.
Is it a double ugly?
Not dramatic at all.
Where do we leave off?
Oh, prices. Okay, so prices vary, and you might be looking at.
Hey, you guys, I need to tap out.
Oh, sorry, I cut you off again.
He's fired.
This is a serious professional interview.
Remote property prices.
Take 15.
Yes. So prices are all over the board. You might find raw land for as little as $50,000, $60,000, $70,000.
That's near Juneau.
Correct.
Now, when you get down to Prince of Wales, Ketchikan,
You could find it for quite a bit less, but again, it depends on everything that we. It depends on everything, the size, the how long is it going to take you to get to the next town? Is that something you need? Do you really want to be remote and live remote entirely, off grid? Then you know.
hold on. Here, you film, Mama. He needs help.
What's happening to us?
I don't
You
know.
just cut.
Here he comes.
Oh, it's a cod. It's a good sized cod.
Is it really a cod?
Gunner.
Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to catch a cod. That's awesome.
Gunner.
Well, this is not halibut, but
Pacific cod.
Pacific cod.
That is awesome.
Sorry we had to break up the interview, but hey,
Wow.
fish were calling, and Captain Funk was answering. We got 2 on here right now. We'll add a cod on there too. Let's get the glacier in the background. What's the name of that glacier? Captain Steve,
No name glacier.
No name glacier.
what's the name of that glacier?
No name glacier.
Because they ran out of names.
I think we're winging it here.
Oh, I'm serious.
I forgot what were we even talking about? Pricing.
Pricing.
So, what is the cheapest you can get in Ketchikan, or have you even looked down there?
I mean, I've seen properties for as little as $25,000. It really depends on the size
Now,
and
is that
proximity.
well? Let's just say per acre. What would like 1 acre run you?
It really, I get that question a lot, and it's not a very. I could give you a number, but it would be highly inaccurate.
It's 140 to 30,000. All depends on location.
140,000 to 30,000.
For an acre?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you have it from Captain Funk. But it's there's so many factors that weigh into it. So really, instead of looking for a price per acre, what you want to do is find the area that it most interests you, whether that's in northern Southeast Alaska, southern Southeast Alaska, and getting with the locals to talk about that. And I'd say the bigger factors are: do you want a water view? Do you want to be on a bluff? You're going to need a road up, or do you want to be in the interior? Where are you going to put your boat? How long is the commute? If you do need medical or a Costco run, but pricing is based on all of those things. But think about this. Think about what your budget is. What can you afford, and start with that. Start with where you want to be and what your budget is, and find something that suits you. Maybe that budget can't afford you a waterfront up on a bluff with a sunset or sunrise view, but maybe it's close to that. And maybe if you go a little bit more interior, for example, or a little further out from a larger city, right, could afford you something within your budget. So pick your budget. What can you afford, and start with that.
The property in Southeast Alaska, especially around Juneau, is a lot more expensive than the interior, because we looked at the interior and we were finding property that was roughly, the cheapest we found was about $2,000 an acre. There's got to be cheaper out there, but that's what where we were looking at the time. That's what we found. But here in our area, the cheapest that we could find per acre was about $25,000. So just think of that. But like I said, well, and Mandy said, the further away you get from a big city, the cheaper. And that was beachfront property. Yeah. So the interior cabins are cheaper because you don't have access to the beach. But you also aren't going to be able to get that out of your mouth. Hold on, Gunner was eating a herring. Gunner. Where was I? So anyways, what she said. So this is a statement, not so much a question, and that is downsizing, right? Now Mandy and Steve both lived here before they bought their cabin, but we did not. And the Army was kind enough to move us from Colorado to Alaska. And we had a garage sale and we gave a bunch of stuff away and we still had so much stuff. Are there like huge cabins? I mean, if you're getting a 1,500 square foot cabin, a 2,000 square foot cabin, you're probably going to be paying $200,000-300,000 easy.
Easily, I'd say $250,000.
So what size cabin do you guys have?
Captain Funk.
I think it's just shy of 1,000. If I can remember correctly.
It's probably about right. And at this time, we don't even utilize the loft very often. Right. It's more like storage space. But ours is.
Don't bump me, Heidi.
We have that beautiful shed.
We do have a nice shed.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, so one of the things in paring down is, remember, you have to heat the space, right? Now, so that really changes your daily upkeep, your program, how much wood or fuel you need to bring in. So, every bit of real estate in your home can be used for storage, but after that, you got to get rid of the stuff. The storage is used for, canned goods and dry goods and things that you actually need in hand. I would say it's not your typical living space where you can afford the extra space for just fun things.
That's what I say. I need like a 500 square foot house and about a 25,000 square foot shed, and I'd be happy. I'd be about as happy as... You looking at that rod? You were. Nothing's on it. That rod ain't catching nothing.
I've got a demographic now.
Oh, you got a demographic? Well, hold on. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Another question that I get is, what should I buy here and what should I bring?
Okay. Good question.
It's a great question.
Are you buying a place that's just trees? There's no cabins and no nothing. Then you're gonna need a firearm. You're gonna need a hunting rifle. You're gonna need something with a large caliber, 30-06, 300 Win Mag, somewhere in that range. It's not for the tiny deer that we got. It's for the big predators. You're gonna need tools. If you had access to heavy equipment, that's obviously going to help you clear the land. Juneau's got heavy rentals in town, though, that can help you out there.
But when he says heavy rentals in town, and we're typically talking about island property, just keep in mind you're looking at probably $500 to $1,000 for a one-way trip to get that piece of machinery over to your property.
That's correct.
Yeah. So it's not cheap.
It's not cheap. So what some of these people do is they're buying a little bit smaller excavators, and they're buying a one-way ticket.
That's me.
They're buying a one-way ticket to the island. And so when they get out to the island, they clear their lot with it. They rent it out to their other island neighbors, help them out. Everybody kind of chips in. So once you get into these remote communities, everybody kind of pools together and helps each other out. It's one of my favorite aspects about the remote properties.
I'll agree with that. Once you get to the island, 99.9% of the time you're going to find a great community. There's that 0.1% that's just going to be a total, yahoo that you're like, why is this guy even or gal even here? But the majority of the time you're gonna have great neighbors who are pretty much like-minded, right? And Steve's right. You all pull together because at one point in time somebody's gonna need something, and you'll need something, and so that's why everybody helps everybody else out, because that's what Friends are for. Go ahead, let's talk about what. So they want to know, what should I bring? Should I bring a chainsaw? Should I buy one? If you're near Juneau, you can buy almost everything here. Chainsaws, tools. We've got a Home Depot.
Juneau has everything that you need to establish your remote property. Everything. You can buy the boat. You can buy the chainsaw. You can get the heavy equipment. You can hire somebody to get the heavy equipment. Just show up. You want to have a fire sale down south? Fire sale. Take all those savings. If you've got some of that heavy equipment, some of those tools, chainsaws, come-alongs, anything to help with clearing that land or building what you may want to build, bring it up. You got to get it to Juneau. Things are not cheap.
That's what I would say is shipping and the longevity of the tool. So if it's like a, if it's on its last leg, maybe drop it off where you're living now and pick up a new one. If you don't think it's going to last much longer, that way you'll get a more bang for your buck. That way you're not paying for that tool to get up here in poundage.
And when it comes to tools, don't skimp out. Southeast saltwater is going to kick your butt. Buy good. Don't buy cheapo. Because you'll end up buying it 2-3 times.
Somebody left a comment a month ago and it said, buy once, cry once. And I was like, that's a perfect saying. And you're right. The saltwater here just eats up everything. So, yeah, it's...
So when it comes to tools, get yourself some WD-40.
And hose them down.
And hose them down. Keep your stuff clean.
Yeah.
So the demographic that I want to talk to you, I don't know if demographic's the right word, but snowbirds. That's what I want to be. I want to be a snowbird. So I'm talking to all you snowbirds out there. You live in your RV down south, you've got your cabin up north. Come chat with us, because there's a handful of folks that do that in our community, and they've got it dialed in. They lock up their cabin, they winterize it, which doesn't take a lot, and then they come back in the springtime, and they enjoy the best of both worlds. They come peak season here, and when it starts to turn ugly, they're like, adios, I'll see you down south. They look up in the sky and they see the birds are going south, and they say, honey, it's time to pack up. We gotta go.
We gotta go.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
We have a handful of snowbirds, and I'm gonna come join you one of these days.
All right, so if people want to reach you,
yeah, you can give us a call or email us, homes@mandymassey.com. Phone number is 907-321-0050. I'm on Facebook also, Mandy Massey Realtor. And Captain Funk and I work together.
Captain Funk, you got an email?
I sure do. It's stevefunk907@gmail.com.
907.
907-957-4321.
I want to thank both of you awesome people for taking us halibut fishing, apparently cod fishing too, and a wonderful time on the water.